Welcome back to your mat. So when we first started quarantine, I don't know if you guys were part of this class or not, but we moved through really using the asana to embody the first word of the first Yoga Sutra. So the first sutra is now begins the practice of yoga, and the first word is now. And I've recently been in practice with my meditation teacher with that word, and I want to just kind of loop back to it and have that be once again our intention for this practice, and have that sense of now landing in the physical body by drawing everything into integration, so that we're moving the fingers from the shoulder, we're moving the toes from the hips, so as close to the midline as possible, considering that this sense of midline will eventually be our most tangible yet subtle sense of the present moment. So, come into child's pose. In your child's pose, just walk your fingers far forward. Notice how the shoulders just want to glide up towards the ears. Can you keep your arms straight, but then squeeze your shoulder blades down away from your ears? So it feels like your shoulder blades are right behind your heart as they glide over the back ribs. Take just a couple big breaths here. And as you lengthen your breath, can you create a full enough breath that your inhale expands to your collarbones and to your pelvis? And your exhale deflates everything in towards the midline. Do that a few times, just letting your breath be your inward-looking eyes. One more big breath, reaching to the tips of the shoulders and the sides of the hips. As you exhale slowly, let your waist draw in, your front ribs and belly draw in, giving you a tangible sense of midline. On your next inhale, rise up into a tabletop position. Cow pose. As you breathe in, squeeze your shoulder blades away from your ears. Exhale, cat pose. Inhale, cow pose. Exhale, roll to cat. Just do this a few more times, waking up flexion and extension in your spine. Come back to neutral spine. Stretch your right arm all the way up towards the ceiling as you breathe in. And then push down through your left hand. Lengthen out the left side of your neck so your head is in line with your spine. Squeeze your right shoulder blade in towards your spine as you lengthen through your right fingertips. Feel the upper back strongly opening your chest. As you exhale, wrap your right arm underneath your body and chest, all the way to the left-hand side of your mat. Lower down and stretch your left arm over your head, but once again, pull your shoulder blade away from your ear and side of your neck. Take 2 big breaths here. Use your breath to feel the spiraling of your spine. Place your left hand down in front of your face. Lift up. Stretch your right arm up towards the ceiling. Swivel your left toes out and extend your right leg back into side plank or gate pose. Push through your left arm. Squeeze your right shoulder blade towards your spine and then lift your right foot up off of the ground. Now take a moment to point your toes and think of reaching your right leg so far back that it opens up space, like your thigh bone is drawing out of your hip socket. Now flex your right toes. Keeping your pelvis where it is, can you use the muscles deep in your hip and your lower abdomen to squeeze the right thigh bone into the hip socket? Once you do that, you'll feel strength on the right side of your hip. You'll probably even feel your right obliques engage. Take 2 more big breaths. Keep that sense of integrating thigh bone towards your center line. 1 more big breath. As you exhale, bring your right hand down, bring your right knee down, tabletop position. Turn your fingertips back towards your thighs so your wrists point towards the front of your mat, the front of your wrists. And then make circles around your wrists. Reverse the direction. Steady yourself, shoulders over wrists, and then slowly pull your shoulders and body back as you peel the heel of your hand up off the mat, the palm of your hand, your base knuckles, and roll over your fingertips. Plant your hands flat, fingertips facing forward. Extend your left arm up towards the ceiling. Take a pause. Squeeze your left shoulder blade in towards your spine to lift your left arm even higher. On this side, glance up at your left hand. This is going to be a very common alignment cue that I give you guys. Often the shoulder juts forward out of integrity and the hand and wrist really reach far back. So we want to correct that by bringing your hand forward into your periphery. Squeeze the upper arm bone into socket and see if from the shoulder blade pulling back, you can move your hand back even farther. Then twist. Left arm threads underneath your body. Extend your right arm forward. Plug the right shoulder blade down your back and use that strength of your right shoulder blade and side body activation to create a deeper twist in your upper spine. Imagine your breath running right through the middle of that twist. Plant your right hand down. Sweep your left arm all the way up towards the ceiling. Swivel your right toes out to a 45-degree angle. Gate pose. Extend your left leg. Bring your left foot up off of the mat. Again, create the distinction for a deeper sense of learning. Point your toes. Reach so far that it feels like your left hip is drawing away from your left ribs. And then flex your foot like someone was pushing into the sole of your foot. Can you plug left thigh bone right into the hip socket and feel all the muscles and support awaken around your hip and your obliques. And as you hold the hip and obliques strong, just awareness is needed in your foot. Take 2 more big breaths. See if you can pull in even deeper, engaging the middle of your glutes, engaging deeper into the transverse abdominal. Release, hand down, knee down, tabletop position. Spread your fingers out wide with your pointer fingers parallel to one another. Tuck your toes. And then so initiate this movement from a sense of the thigh bones, both this time, sucking right up into the hip sockets. As you do that, your knees float an inch away from the ground. So again, your knees are lifted off, but just notice energetically if it feels like the weight of your knees want to drop down. Can you create even more strength of the thigh bones pulling up into the hip sockets? So much so that your tailbone curls towards the ceiling and you have the natural curve of your low back. So much so that you feel your abdomen engage, and then breathe for 3. From that strength of integration in the hips, can you deepen your breath? The breath filling out the space between shoulders and hip. One more inhale. Push back to downward facing dog as you exhale. Get a long stance in your down dog. So just because we're integrating the arm bones and the thigh bones a lot and reducing the space in the joint doesn't mean that we're reducing the space in the muscles or the posture. In fact, walk your hands so far away from your feet that your heels don't quite touch the floor, like there's space. You're long in your stance now. Can you push the earth away with your hands so much so that your shoulders curl up towards your ears? Stay strong through your forearms and triceps, and then squeeze your shoulders away from your ears, shoulder blades pulling towards your mid-body. Take a couple big breaths here with your upper back strong and integrated. Pedal push your heels. Lift both heels high and walk your feet all the way up towards the top of your mat. Separate your feet out wide. Interlace your fingers at your low back. Let your knuckles stretch up towards the ceiling. Shoulders pull up towards the ceiling. Soften your face as you drop your head. And allow the sides of your neck to melt towards the floor. Slow down your breath. Can you create, even though you're very grounded and very flexed, can you create a subtle sense of drawing your thigh bones up into the hip sockets here? As you do, maybe you'll feel a little bit more length right where the hamstring connects to the bottom of the pelvis. Keep integrating, creating less space in the hip joint as you pull the thigh bone in towards it. And from that integration, lengthen your low back a little bit more. Take a couple more deep breaths. And release your hands down to the mat. Push your feet down as you slowly roll all the way up to stand. Big inhale, reach up. Let your right fingers just drop by your side and lean up and over to the right. And come back through center, both arms up. Release your left arm, lean up and over to the left. Up through center, big inhale. Exhale, bring your hands together at your heart center and take a moment to close your eyes. Slow down the rhythm of your breath. And as you slow the breath down, feel the breath moving up and down the length of your core. Open your eyes, big inhale, stretch your arms up. Exhale, forward folds. Plug your shoulder blades away from your ears and let that lift your chest halfway up. Keep pulling the shoulder blades back to flatten out your spine. Plant your palms and step back into high plank. Pull the pit of your belly in and up. Draw your front ribs towards your back ribs and keep the engagement of your core to low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Lengthen the sides of your neck. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take a breath in. As you exhale, look forward, step your feet to hands. Halfway lift, pulling your shoulder blades back to create the opening in your chest. Now draw thigh bones into hips as you take a deep forward fold. Rise up tall, mountain pose, breathe in. Forward fold as you breathe out. Initiate the movement by shoulders drawing away from your ears and into the spine to float your chest halfway up. Step back to high plank. Front ribs meet your back ribs, low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. One breath in. Exhale, look forward, step feet to hands. Shoulder blades plug into the midline, halfway up. Pull the thigh bones to the hips as you take a deep fold right at the creases of your hips. Rise, mountain pose, inhale. Hands to your heart, exhale. Inhale, reach up, mountain pose. Sit back and down into chair pose. Slide your knees back. Use the deep core muscles to pull your thigh bones back into the hip sockets, so much so that your tailbone curls to the back of your mat as you sit even lower. So you're strong in that hip flexion. You're not just collapsing into that range of motion because of gravity, but you're pulling yourself into that range of motion. Bring your hands together at your heart center. Shift the weight into your right foot. Curl your left foot up off of the ground, the left heel. And then extend your arms back, reach your left leg back, airplane pose. Hold here. Once again, right thigh bone pulls up into the hip socket, which helps lower your chest. Notice your left leg. Does it feel long? The left side waist super long. Draw the left thigh bone into the hip socket. 3 more breaths. Squeeze your shoulder blades in towards your spine. And then engage your belly. So from hips to core to shoulders should feel strong. 1 more breath. Crescent warrior, touch your back toes down. Inhale, sweep your arms all the way up towards the ceiling. Exhale, open arm twist to the right. Pull both thigh bones into your hip sockets. Bend a little deeper into your right knee. Good, get longer in your stance actually. Get longer first, and as you do, you'll feel probably the thigh bones drawing away from one another. The pelvis becomes a little off-center. Can you keep the length, the distance between feet, the deep bend in your right knee, and squeeze your thigh bones so much in towards one another, your hips lift. Take 2 more breaths. From the integration of your hips, lift up through the pit of your belly and reverse your warrior. Plug your left shoulder blade back to pull your whole left arm behind your ear. Windmill your left hand down to the ground. Bring your right arm straight forward in front of you. So perpendicular to your body, not up towards the ceiling. In line with your gaze. And then reach so far out in front of you that your shoulder draws away from your spine. Now keep your arms straight, your fingers reaching, but plug your right scapula back towards the spine. Keep plugging your right arm bone up into the socket, the shoulder socket. And from the strength of your shoulder blade, can you float your right hand up towards the ceiling? Keep drawing the right shoulder blade down the spine and feel it carry your right ribs with you. Roll to the pinky edge side of your left foot. Stay strong in your right shoulder blade, side plank, stack your feet. Your right leg probably feels longer than your left. Integrate right thigh bone to hip socket, navel to spine, front ribs to back ribs. The whole square from shoulder to hips, the trunk of your body should be strong here. Take 2 more breaths. Place both hands down on the ground, high plank. Exhale, low plank. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, push back, down dog. Relax your jaw and your tongue. Let go of the physical effort with the breath. Create it more as a subtle, mindful effort. Look forward, step feet to hands. Lift and lengthen your spine. Again, integrate the thigh bones to take a deep forward fold right at the creases of your hips. Rise up tall, mountain pose. Inhale. Exhale your hands to your heart. Inhale, reach up, mountain. Initiate chair by pulling thigh bones so far back into the hip sockets that you create this strong crease. Right? It's all about the intention. I can sit down by just letting go of the strength in the knees and the hips, right? But create the stability, create the awareness. The thigh bones pull back into the hips, so much so that the knees bend and your tailbone curls to the back of your mat. Keep drawing back as you pull your belly button back so your core feels a little bit more stable. Hands together at your heart. Shift the weight first into your left foot and get anchored in the sole of your foot. Curl your right heel up. Become a little bit stronger in your left foot. Airplane pose. Now, can you keep your right thigh bone integrated as you send your right leg back and arms back? So you still have this like oppositional pull. Your right thigh bone is hugging so much forward that the right hip draws towards your right ribs and your whole right side waist shortens. Okay, now pull the left thigh bone deeper into the hip socket like you're sucking it up as you lower your chest, head in line with your heel. 2 more breaths. Bend your left knee, crescent warrior, touch down. Stretch your arms up. Okay, now lengthen your stance. Usually when we do those kind of step backs, we don't hit even close to like our full range of motion. So lengthen your stance here. Notice the distinction as you get a little longer. What tends to happen is we pull away from the midline. So there's the work. The body is reaching long, the extremities, but your strength is hugging you back into midline, back into center. Pull your thigh bones to the hips. Feel your right hip swivel forward to be in line with your left. Your glute, your right glute, the middle of it should be on fire. Your outer left hip should be working as well. Full breath in. Can you draw your left shoulder blade back and down to create the twist? Take 2 more big breaths. Focus from hip to hip, up to shoulder. Pull your belly and ribs in. Take 1 more breath. And then squeeze the right shoulder blade down your back as you stretch your right arm all the way up. Don't let the shoulder blade rise. Keep it pulling down to pull your right arm behind you. Right hand comes to the mat with control. Left arm reaches straight out in front of you or to the side of you, in line with your eyes. Stretch forward. Stretch so far forward that you feel your left side body reach towards your left knee. And then plug. Left upper arm bone draws in. That connects to the shoulder blade. The shoulder blade draws to the spine. That connects to the ribs and it starts to curl your ribs open. From the shoulder blade, can you lift your right wrist? Don't let it go behind your shoulder. Create that resistance within. Now maintain the strength of your left shoulder. Side plank. Pull your right thigh bone into the hip socket. Plug your left thigh bone into the hip socket. So when you stack your feet there, your legs are the same length. Draw your navel in and up. Take 1 more big inhale. Both hands down, high plank. Vinyasa to downward facing dog. Good, and then hold your down dog. Notice the breath. This is probably the main benefit for breath within the structure of asana. right? We're not really doing too many unique or different types of breath work, but this is a really beautiful foundation to continue to go back to, is just having a fuller awareness of your breath. In the simplest of ways, your breath is now sped up, a little bit shorter. Maybe it's higher up in your chest and your throat. And with awareness, you can slow down your breath, bring it deeper into your body. Look forward, step your feet up towards your hands. Halfway lift, shoulder blades plug back. Exhale, forward fold. There's all the way up tall, mountain pose. Bring your hands together at your heart. Spread your right toes out wide so the sole of your right foot becomes very broad. Shift weight into your right foot. Different than letting your right hip push out to the side. Shift the weight into your right foot so your left foot feels light on the floor. Now, keeping this alignment, can you use the strength of the deep hip muscles in your core, keeping your left leg straight as well, to plug your left thigh bone up into the hip socket, so much so that your left foot just hovers off of the mat. You'll feel the left side waist shorten as the left obliques engage. And then release, left foot down, spread your left toes. Try it on this side. Shift first. Weight in your left foot. Left leg is stable. And then you're not tipping over so much that your right leg draws up. You want to stay stacked and tall. And then squeeze up into the hip socket. Take 2 more big breaths. Pull the thigh bone into the hip. Curling your hip up towards your rib. 1 more breath. Release, right foot down. Shift weight into your left foot. Nope, shift weight into your right foot. Strengthen your right leg. Stand tall through your spine. Once again, pull your left thigh bone up into the hip socket. Reach your arms all the way up towards the ceiling and plug your shoulder blades down towards your hips. Can you imagine that the right shoulder blade is reaching towards your left glute and your left glute is reaching up towards your right shoulder blade? Now find the same big cross pattern with left shoulder blade to right glute. Keep that big X on your back as you tip forward to warrior 3. Go slow. Draw your right thigh bone into the hip socket so that you can deepen the flexion and lower your chest in line with your right heel. Take 2 more big breaths. Hands together at your heart. Plug your left thigh bone to the hip. Twist open to half moon. See how far you can go without hands. You should be really strong on your right hip from that pulling up into it, which will create more stability even as you move. When you need your hands, open your arms and then pause. Different than sinking the right thigh bone in, squeeze the right thigh bone deep into the hip. Now pull your left thigh bone into the hip. And as you do, can you draw your left shoulder blade to your left glute to float your right fingertips off of the ground. Stretch your right arm forward, but keep the right shoulder blade pulling back. Bend your right knee, warrior 2. Okay, yeah. Sink low. Lengthen your stance. Get a little bit longer. I'm just assuming. And then get a little bit lower in your right knee. And then pull in. Pull into the midline. Flip your front palm and reverse your warrior. Extended side angle, bring your right forearm to your right thigh. or your right hand to the ground. One more breath. Warrior two. Straighten out your right leg. Turn your right toes to the left so that the pinky edge side of your foot is parallel to the back of your mat. Turn your left toes to the back of your mat. And then swing your right hand down to the floor, right heel up towards the ceiling. From your left shoulder blade, twist your chest open. From the left shoulder blade, pulling back. So your hand should not be behind your shoulder, but your shoulder is leading the way for the whole body. Roll into your side plank. Plug your left thigh bone up into the hip socket until you feel your left foot shorten so it's in line with the right. And then keep drawing left thigh bone into hip socket as you bring your left knee in towards your chest. Roll your right heel up towards the ceiling. Step your left foot in line with your right hand. Crescent warrior. Bring your right foot to meet your left, chair pose. Rise all the way up to stand. Exhale, release your hands by your side. Let your traps relax. The sides of your neck relax. Close your eyes. Bring awareness to your breath. As the awareness deepens, can you feel the breath just kind of naturally slows down and naturally draws into the midline of your body? It starts to expand and trace the length of your spine. Okay, open your eyes. Spread your left toes out wide. Shift the weight into your left foot. Plug your right thigh bone up into the hip socket. Right toes are flexed. Stretch your arms up. Can you pull your right thigh bone up so much so that your right side waist actually becomes shorter than your left? Now maintain that shortness because it will naturally lengthen back out. Maintain it for now, the best you can. And then as you pull your left thigh bone to hip, deepen your hip flexion, hinging forward to warrior three. Think right side waist short and integration. Left shoulder blade to right glute, activate both. Right shoulder to left glute, activate both. Join your hands at your heart. From the strength of your outer right hip, start to rotate open into half moon. Keep pulling your left thigh bone into the hip socket so you create a sense of stability as you move. Half moon pose. Extend your arms, left fingertips down if they're not already. Pull shoulder blades into the back pockets of your body, in towards your glutes. Hug your right thigh bone into the hip so much so that maybe you can float your right fingertips, left fingertips off the ground, or maybe they just get lighter. Stretch your left arm forward if you can reach them up. Hold. Shoulders away from your ears, thigh bones hugging into hips, core engaged. Warrior two, land. Lengthen. Lengthen a lot. So you create this dichotomy in the postures, especially when you encourage like distance away from the midline, right? It then creates a little bit more thoughtfulness. The farther your arms and feet get away, creates even more work to create that sense of pulling into the midline. That work anchors us into our practice. Use your left shoulder blade drawing down to lift your whole left arm up and back. Extended side angle. Keep squeezing thigh bones to hip to lift your whole chest up to warrior two. Straighten out your left leg. Turn your left toes to the right. Pinky edge side of your foot is parallel to the back side of your mat. Turn your right toes to the front of your mat. And then take a slow cartwheel with your hands, coming into a twisting low lunge. Left hand down, left heel up. Your right shoulder blade dictates the movement of your right arm. Squeeze it back, so far back that it starts to pull your whole ribs back, and eventually it stacks your feet. Side plank. Same thing as standing. Pull right thigh bone into hip socket. Keep your hip reaching towards your shoulders and your shoulder blades reaching towards your hips, and then curl your right knee in towards your chest. Slowly step your right foot towards the top of your mat in line with your left hand. Bring both feet together. Chair pose. Push through your feet, rise up to stand mountain. Exhale, bring your hands together at your heart, close your eyes. Notice the breath, short in its pace, short in where it exists in your breath, in your body. Can you draw in an inhale that's long enough that extends down towards your belly? And slow down your exhale that it traces that same line up from the belly and out your nose. Two more breaths. Just be here. Same amount of effort, but a different energy. This is much less tangible, much more subtle. Open your eyes. Inhale, stretch your arms up to mountain pose. Exhale, forward fold. Pull your shoulder blades back to lift halfway up. Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, up dog. Downward facing dog. Stretch your right leg up towards the ceiling. Pull your right thigh bone to hip socket, shoulder blades to hips as well. Draw your right knee in towards your chest. Rounded spine, step your right foot between your hands. Drop your left knee down to the mat. Low lunge. Inhale, sweep your arms all the way up. Exhale, bring your hands down to surround your right foot. Straighten out your right leg. Keep your left toes flexed. Flex your right toes towards your face. Take a breath, get long. Pull your right thigh bone back as you fold deeper over your right leg. Continue to walk your hands back as you sit onto your left heel. Float your left knee up off of the mat. Hold here for a moment. Lift your left heel higher so that you're really opening extension in your ankle. And you're holding this with a lot of strength. You're holding this range of motion with a lot of strength, the whole weight of your body. Now, you can round your spine to start, just so you can find the balance of fingertips to the floor. Flex your right toes. Pull your right foot back into the hip socket to lift it up off of the mat. And then can you keep pulling both thigh bones into the hips until you feel the core hold on to them? Maybe bring one or both hands up to your heart. Hands to the ground. Bring your right leg Curl it in and reach it up towards the ceiling. Standing split, forward fold over your left leg. Hold your standing split. Squeeze your left thigh bone into the hip socket. Drag your shoulders away from the floor to not only lengthen your spine, but fold your chest closer towards your leg. Hug your right thigh bone into hip socket, right knee in towards your chest. Round your spine as much as you can, like forehead to knee, knee to forehead. Lift your left heel up, pulling your left thigh bone up into the hip socket as you lower your hips to your left heel. Push your leg through, right leg through your arms. And then stretch your right foot as far forward as you can. Lower your heel, the sole of your foot, bend your right knee. You're crawling forward into a low lunge. Arms up. Left knee reaches up, big inhale. Exhale, release both hands down. Lift your left leg up, standing split. Hold your standing split. Or from that integration, if you're feeling light, then take your handstand hops. 3 breaths. Release both feet down. Separate your feet out wide. Sit down low into Malasana squat. Hands together at your heart. Take just 3 breaths. Ground your hands and slowly lift your hips. Deep forward folds. Halfway lifts. Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, up dog. Down dog. Stretch your left leg up towards the ceiling. Draw your thigh bone into your hip. Curl your knee in towards your chest. Place your foot between your hands. Lower your right knee down. Low lunge. Arms up, breathe in. Exhale, release your hands to surround your left foot. Half split. Curl your right toes under so your heel is lifted. Flex your left toes towards your face. Pull the pit of the belly in as it catches onto the thigh bone and draws that in. Lengthen your chest forward and down. Walk your hands back, your hips back, and sit onto your right heel. Float your right knee up off of your mat. Again, you'll be flexing your upper body to start in your spine, and that'll actually help you not only for balance, but flexion in the spine is created and brings awareness to the strength of your core, which will help lifting your left leg. For now, create that flexion and just see if you can anchor into the big toe ball mound to the pinky toe ball mound as you lift your heel a little bit higher. Push those 2 points of your feet down, big toe and pinky toe ball mound. And then draw your left thigh bone back. Lift your left heel up off of the mat. Try and lower your right knee and left knee so they're in line with one another, and then maybe find the balance with one or both hands up to heart. Hands to the ground, standing split. Pull your left leg through, so create a tiny little uncomfortable strong ball, and then extend your left leg all the way up towards the ceiling. Deep forward folds. Have your fingertips on the ground as you lift your right heel up. Draw your left knee in towards your nose. Keep lifting your right heel as you slowly lower your hips to it. Shoot your left leg forward to the front of your mat.
And then extend it as far as you can. Bend your left knee, lower your right knee, low lunge. Arms up, lengthen your spine. Lift your right knee up, high lunge. Dive your hands down, standing split. Right leg goes up to the ceiling. 3 breaths. Standing splits or handstand hops. Forward fold at the top of your mat. Separate your feet wide. Balasana. Soften now your outer hips. Lengthen through the back of your neck, the base of your skull. Awareness on your breath. Subtly and naturally influences your breath to slow down. Place your hands on the ground, lift up to a forward fold, take your time. Halfway lift, step back into high plank. Slowly lower all the way down to your mat. Slide your hands back, right underneath your elbows. Curl yourself up to an up dog. If it feels okay, bend your knees and reach your toes towards your head towards your toes, extending your spine by flexing the back body as much as possible. Exhale, roll yourself all the way down. Separate your hands out wide. Roll over your left shoulder. Bend your right knee and reach your right hand back to catch a hold of your right foot. Squeeze your right heel towards your glute. Keep your hips stacked, but push the front of your right hip open. Release your foot. Slowly move through center and switch sides. Right arm extends, bend your left knee. Grab your left foot if you can. If not, just hold. Maybe you can place your left foot on the ground. Think of drawing your left knee back and opening your left hip. Soften your right shoulder joint. Slow down your breath, twice as long. Release. Onto your stomach and your chest. Push yourself up to your knees. Sit back into child's pose. Roll yourself all the way up to a seat, and then sweep your legs around in front of you. Soles of your feet together, knees out wide. You can have your heels close. That'll stretch more of your inner thighs. I like to have my feet farther away from me to get more into the outer hips. And it can help to manipulate the body by pulling your thigh bones and your glutes away from the floor so you feel anchored. Lift your chest. Open your chest. Hinge at your hips and dive chest to the soles of your feet. Soften your outer glutes. Soften your inner thighs. Let your shoulders get so relaxed that they draw away from your spine and broaden your upper back. Relax your head, your neck, your face. Thread your right forearm underneath your right shin. So your right forearm anchors under your right shin, and your right hand can just curl and be placed on the top of your right foot. Use your left hand to just gently push your left thigh bone down. See if you can create just the smallest sense of not just pushing down, but rotating, externally rotating the quad muscle. And then slowly draw your left ribs away from your left hip, side bending over your right leg. Lengthen your breath so that the breath can touch deep down into the hip. Roll through center, thread your left forearm underneath your left shin. Unravel your right arm. Place your right hand on your right thigh and gently roll the thigh muscle away. Peel your right ribs back and over your left thigh. Try to create space in your hip socket. More big breath. And come back through center. Thread both forearms under your shins. Forward fold. Roll yourself up to a seat. Use your hands on the outside of your knees to draw your legs together. Extend your legs out long. Big breath. Forward fold. Roll yourself up. Roll yourself back. Plant your feet right underneath your knees and rise up into an easy bridge. Just enough to open up the front of your hips. Open up your chest. Roll your spine all the way down. Cross right ankle over left thigh so you have a figure four. Pull your left heel in close towards your left glute and then drop that figure four over to the left so that the outer left knee touches down and the sole of your right foot grounds. Slide your right ankle closer up towards your hip. Use your left hand to push your right knee away from you. As you do, soften your right hip socket. Let it become so relaxed that the right thigh bone can spiral as it externally rotates. Roll onto your back. Switch your legs, left thigh over right, or left ankle over right thigh. Drop that figure four over to the right. Anchor your left ankle a little closer up toward your right hip, and then use your right hand to just gently, as if not to awaken the muscle, but gently push the thigh bone, spiral it away from you, reaching your knee towards the ceiling. Roll onto your back. Hug both knees in towards your chest. Gently rock side to side. And squeeze yourself into a tiny little ball. And then exhale, extend your arms and your legs out into Shavasana. So land in your Shavasana with your legs wide out towards the corners of your mat. Your arms out wide, take up space. Let your toes fall away from one another, away from the midline. Palms roll up towards the ceiling. And then squeeze your fingers in your toes as much as you can. Tight little energetic balls. Squeeze. Tense hands, tense feet. And then as you slowly release your fingers in your toes, soften them. Now squeeze your glutes and your shoulder blades. Squeeze as much as you can. Squeeze like you're trying to tire out the muscles. And soften as you slowly release. And then engage your core lastly. Pull your ribs and your belly down towards your spine. See if you can travel the navel deeper in. And then can you maintain your awareness where the whole core and spine meet right at the center of your body? As you exhale, release the muscles. Awareness stays on the midline as the body just softly disappears from it. Stay here meditating on this space as long as you like. Thank you once again for showing up for yourself and showing up for this community on your mat. Namaste.